We'll save you a seat. Yes, we did. Lisa sent me 3, but it only the job needed didn't have any.
I know, we did, we kind of take one, they were lined up when we got there.
Okay. Because I have to submit it every year with Tree City, because you have to apply again every year. So, just want to make sure it's going on.
Yeah.
And we've got the little thing that says when y'all were doing it.
Yeah,
So,
we
it's-
were.
see, that's fine.
Even with that cold as it was, and the wind, it would be like it was.
I'm
You
not
still
a
have to
fan
do
of
it.
But they had, yeah, we had a lot of them. We came out almost all of them. We set the ones we had left by the shop.
Mhm. Okay.
And I think they were gone by the end of the day.
I think they
Well, that's
said the
good.
wind chill will be 2 degrees in Huntsville Friday.
Well, it makes the snow here.
I am not a fan of the weather.
All right, well, it's 6 o'clock, so I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Welcome to the February 18th version of the regular Columbiana City Council meeting, and we'll take a look at the agenda. And while that's up there, I'll ask Councilman Rustin to lead us in our invocation.
Sure, let us pray. Dear God, thank you for the opportunity to join as a group tonight, Lord. We thank you for everything you've given us throughout so far this year. And God, I ask you, Lord, as we progress through the year, I ask you, Lord, just continue to bless the city and the people that live in it. God, I ask you, Lord, just always to protect those that protect our city and make it go to day-to-day basis and keep their families and themselves safe. And God, I ask you, Lord, just be with the meeting tonight. Let the things be discussed be for the benefit of those here and within Columbiana. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, while you're looking over the agenda, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Lilly. Mizell. Rustin. King. Phillips.
Here.
Mayor Mitchell.
Here. Give you a few more seconds to take a look at that agenda. Figure out what I've done with my pen here. Okay, and as usual, the first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the February the 4th council meeting. Council members have received a copy of the minutes in their packages, and that was sent out earlier too, was it not? Okay, so had an opportunity to review those. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Okay, if not, let the record show that the minutes are approved as written. And we'll start with our department reports.
So everything's green, everything's going well. Training is underway. We still have one job opening that hopefully we're gonna fill this Thursday. I got coming in. It's a Montgomery officer we're gonna interview, and we've interviewed him before, and hopefully this is gonna fill our position. Everything else looks great. Issues and concerns. And so we really wanna make the public aware again of scams. We had an employee almost get scammed by the same jury duty scam. And we just want to let the public know that if you receive a phone call from somebody saying that we have a warrant for you to come pay for your warrant, that is not how the process works at all. As a matter of fact, it's gotten, I guess, to the point now that the City of Columbia Police Department, Alabama, Pelham, Sheriff's Department, we're all gonna come together and put together some type of PSA announcement, warning everybody, and hopefully be broadcasted on all the major channels, and people will understand. Please do not take a phone call from somebody claiming to be a deputy or a police officer and go to an ATM machine and give them a card number to pay a fine. That is not how it works at all. And then the only other thing is, we've had to, really crack down on parking on city streets, especially Mildred Street, between the buses, the school kids. It's become a major issue, so we're asking that nobody park on Mildred Street. We try not to be too cumbersome when we're dealing with people parking in the street until it becomes a problem. We really don't wanna bother folks too much, but, Mildred Street has just become an issue, especially after school, between the buses and the school kids, so we ask that nobody park, on Mildred Street. That's about it.
On the parking,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll have to go back, and we've got some planning commission folks here too, but
Mhm.
don't our residential, zone, ordinances allow for parking on the street?
It does unless the vehicle parked, if your vehicle's parked all the way up against the curb and there's less than 15 feet in between, it's either 15 or 18, let me go back and look at the ordinance and I'll get back with you, but if it's, I wanna say it's 15 feet between that vehicle and the other curb, a usable road space, then it's illegal.
So usable road space? So
Yes.
if I had cars parked basically on both sides of the road,
There's no,
that would be a problem.
that would be a problem. Yeah, and that's kinda what we're running into, we have people parking, blocking folks from getting in and out of their driveway, because Mildred Street's not the widest street in
Right.
the world, it's just, yeah.
Okay, well, I'm just curious about our enforcement ability based upon our zoning
It's in our
regulations.
ordinance, and, you know, we don't wanna write people parking tickets for parking,
Understand.
so we've just been kinda going door to door. letting them
Hopefully,
know.
most people would be cooperative.
Yeah, well, yeah, we haven't had a problem, we made a couple contacts and people moved their vehicles off the street, and that's been about the end of it.
Any other questions for the chief? All right, thank you. Admin,
Everything's going good in admin. There's no issues or anything, just receiving business license and getting those, processed. The bottom section shows our, budget actual. The first section is the general fund and the bottom section is all other funds.
I want to talk just a little bit about this, and we've talked about it before. These budget surpluses and deficits and whatnot are driven often by the timing of the receipt of revenue or the timing of various expenses. We budget on a cash basis, and then we take that annualized budget and just kind of divide everything equally by 12 months. And as Charlene was just mentioning, you can see that our budget for the general fund was a surplus at this point in time of about 1.9 million. We've got about 2.9 million. And the reason for that is a timing thing, because we've spread everything out over the 12 months, but we've received our ad valorem taxes, beginning of the year. We've received new business licenses, and so it's given us an excess surplus in that regard. On the opposite side of things, down here in the bottom, when you look at all the funds, we have budgeted for the receipt of grant funding to support the sewer project upgrade. That's the major item on here. And we had not received it until recently. So it's not on the January report. You'll see it on February, but we just got a payment from ADEM of $1.7 million, so that will change that. But then over time, you're gonna see us whittling away at the general fund surplus to get down to that 1.1 million that we budgeted for. And hopefully we'll be able to maintain that 2.4 million overall surplus of all funds. So it's kind of affected by the timing of revenues and expenses. Any questions for Charlene? Court, we got the judge here tonight.
Oh, I'm glad Terry threw something together for me, because I've been a little distracted here of late, but,
Looks good to me.
everything, yeah, it looks good, everything's great, everything is rolling along. We're still having a problem with people not showing up. We're still letting people pay on on a payment plan. We're still doing that. There has been a recent change in Montgomery, actually a funding change that has given the probate court access to additional funds for mental health. And the probate judge contacted me personally and said that we have these funds that we've never had that were not really earmarked, that could come as far down the tree, so to speak, as municipal courts. And did I know of any need that we had for that? And at that point in time, we did have an individual that I will not mention by name here, but Chief knows who it is, that we had a problem with, that needed those services. And there was a moment, I found an interesting moment, that Terry and myself and the probate judge and the chief of the Shelby County Mental Health Department were all on a conference call discussing this one individual, and it crossed my mind how many hours and resources are being placed into this one individual who has a problem. But it got him out of our jail and it got him off of our dime. He had been a bit of a problem for us, but I thought that's an interesting piece of news, that we now have potentially some funding that comes as far down the tree as the municipal court system. If we have these individuals that do not pigeonhole into any other mental health pigeonhole, there are funds and resources available to us if we call the right people now. We've never really had that before. But other than people not showing up and people not paying, which has been a problem for the last 43 years, things are rolling along. Our new assistant magistrate is doing a really good job, and Terry transitioned well into Lisa's spot, and prosecutor and public defender are doing their jobs. They're filling their roles appropriately. The funding issue is going to be what it is. I cannot make people pay money, but it's going to be what it is, and we're rolling along. I think your numbers are pretty consistent as to where they have been. We just can't get people to show up, and we have processes to deal with that. It's time consuming and it's expensive, but we have processes to deal with that, and we do that. But all things considered, we're rolling along nicely, I think.
Any questions for the judge? So one comment, the auditors did notice the amount of collections that were outstanding as far as the court was concerned, and Charlene and I spoke with him, and we agreed that the appropriate thing to do was to take that old stuff and write it off. It still does not affect our ability to collect, but we just won't be carrying them as receivables on our books anymore.
Well, there comes a point that the old warrants, and I think you and I have recently gone through, and some of the old warrants, the warrants that are years old, that are in the system. They're in the NCIC system, but these people have disappeared. They've been gone forever. We'll never find them. We just go through and purge those because it makes no sense to leave them there. So along those same lines, it makes perfect sense. I don't know what the answer is. It is across the board problem. All the judges are having the same problem we're having. People just not showing up. You send them a payment letter or you send them a failure to appear letter, they ignore it. Once you do get them to show up, we can add money to their fine and cost, and we can do those things. And sometimes we do that, and sometimes it's appropriate to do that. And sometimes they have legitimate reasons for not coming to court, but most of the times they don't. Most of the time it's just a dereliction of duty on their part, or a lack of respect for the police department or the court system in general, and there's nothing I can do to fix that. I can just do your job and move on.
Well, when you figure it out, we will get you appointed to the Middle East and Ukrainian peace.
Really, I speak 3 languages, but I don't speak Ukrainian.
Any other questions or comments for the judge?
No, I know the answer, but it seems, I wonder if, they would never do it, but in terms of like, okay, if you can't show up to court at municipal level, we'll escalate that to a higher level. But I mean, it's still the same thing, if they're not showing up here.
Well, it's not a crime,
Okay.
it's not a crime as such to not show up for court unless you turn it into a contempt. Now, you can turn it into a contempt, and there's two kinds of contempt. There's direct contempt and there's indirect contempt. Direct contempt is when somebody does something in view of the court. I actually see it, that's direct contempt. Indirect contempt is when you disobey a court order. When you get that letter and you don't come to court, technically, you can file a separate charge and call it contempt.
Yeah.
The problem with that is that the cat's chasing its tail. You've got another charge
Yeah.
on a person that hadn't come to this one.
That's right.
All you're doing is creating additional paperwork for your magistrates, what you're doing.
Yep.
I mean, hopefully you can get them back to the original charge of showing up and dealing with the fine and the cost and the punishments and whatever that might be. But if they don't do that, I mean, certainly it makes no sense to arrest somebody and put them in jail for contempt when I could put them in jail for the original charge to begin with. Plus they're charging me now $50 a day, not $33 a day, to house a city prisoner. So it's kind of a cat chasing its tail sort of thing. It never catches it, and once it does, it doesn't know what to do with it.
Then the cat's tired.
And the cat's tired. And so, anyway, we forge on and do the best we can, see, just keep going. But I am pleased with the flow. We handled a lot of cases last week. We handled a lot of cases in an hour and a half. And that was just, everybody was doing their job, and it flowed well, and magistrates were doing their job, prosecutor and defense counsel doing their job. And it went smoothly. And we did handle an awful lot of paper in an hour and a half. And so from that standpoint, it's very good.
All right.
Good deal.
Thank you, Judge. Public Works, Alan's not here, obviously. Alan's retired. Obviously, he's gonna be starting in March, I guess, as a part-time employee, and also has a volunteer consulting agreement. So we will continue to utilize his services. He does talk about the sewer pump at the shop is set. We had to get we had to reposition a water main that was obviously providing service to the jail, and so that stopped us from paving the parking lot. Plus, we had to get our new sewer pump installed, and that's been done. And so now we should be able to get the paving done out there when the weather will allow us to do that. And we've got the drawing package so we can bid the electrical work out there. Once it's paved and we have electricity out there, we can start moving into the new facility. We can empty out the warehouse. And when we do that, obviously, we're going to try to dispose of those things. When in doubt, throw it out instead of keeping a lot of junk. And the same thing that's stored in Dr. Phillips' old clinic, that's what I call it, over there, where the offices are. There's a lot of storage out there. So we'll eliminate as much as that stuff, but then again, we'll move that to the storage at the warehouse once the electricity's out there. And pretty soon, we'll be able to start moving equipment once the property is paved out there as well. So looking forward to that. And then obviously, he's ordered the glue for the artificial turf. I guess this is for the batting cages, so.
Are those at, Bolton or Sports Complex?
Was that for the old artificial turf, or did they have to order new?
No, that's what we bought a while back. They're trying to glue it down.
That's about it. Any questions there? Okay. Do we have any board meetings?
We met last week. You want to do that? We actually had only discussion items. We had an application for, Randy Goggins for Sector 7, but there were some errors on the plat. So we had a special call meeting, last night that we approved that. And the only other thing that we had on there was for some discussion items. So that is all we did.
Okay, Sector 7, huh? How many total is he gonna end up having?
10 right there, he
Yeah,
told me right
I was
now.
gonna say, I couldn't remember what he said, but
All right, so that's the planning commission, and she was talking about Springs Crossing subdivision. So, any questions for Charlene about the planning commission? Okay. All right, so we got some resolutions on the agenda tonight. This first one, resolution 22501, is authorizing the mayor to sign a lighting service agreement for Springs Crossing. The developer, which is Randy Goggins, has responsibility for putting in the power and putting in the lights, and he enters into an agreement for Alabama Power to do that. And then they send us an agreement for us to, once the lights are installed, obviously, to add them to our monthly charge for the street lights. And we've been kind of doing this sector by sector by sector by sector. And so what we're have done is proposing a resolution that says that the council would authorize the mayor to sign the lighting agreements for each of the additional sectors, so we don't have to go through this every particular time. So that's basically the purpose of this resolution. Any questions on that? In this case, the one that's pending out there now, it's like 5 lights. 5 street lights. So. Any discussion? Okay. Would someone like to offer resolution 022501?
I'd like to introduce resolution 022501, authorizing the mayor to sign lighting service agreements for Springs Crossing.
Second?
I'll say.
Okay. This does, though, involve the expenditure of funds, so I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Lilly,
Yes.
Mizell,
Yes.
Ruskin,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes. Okay. So the next one is authorizing the mayor to sign a contract with River Tree Systems for auditing services. This is basically providing auditing for sales tax to make sure that we're collecting what we're supposed to collect. Anything you would care to add to that, Charlene?
This is separate than Avenue, who does our regular sales tax collection. They will go out if we ask them to and do audits on businesses. If they are working with another city and they think that there's something that Columbiana's missing, then they'll ask us if we want to be included, and they'll do the audit and also include us in that to get either business license or sales tax.
They being River Tree.
River Tree,
Okay. So it's basically for recovery of taxes and business license funds. Any questions or discussion? Okay. Would anyone care to introduce resolution 022502?
I'll introduce resolution 022502, it's authorizing the mayor to sign a contract with River Tree Systems for auditing services.
Okay. Would you call it? I'm sorry, I got ahead of you. Would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Lilly,
Yes.
Mizell,
Yes.
Ruskin,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell.
Yes. Okay, and I think the last one is to adopt the Shelby County Commission Building Code regulations. What we have done in the past, each time a new version of the International Building Codes are adopted, we have supposed to have adopted that version because we use inspectors from Shelby County to inspect for us, and our builders, we're requiring them to build to that version. But we haven't been diligent at each time adopting the most current one. So what we're saying by this resolution is that we are going to adopt whatever version of the building codes that the Shelby County Commission is working to at that particular time. Is there any questions or discussion? Okay, would someone introduce the 022503?
I'll introduce resolution 022503, it's a resolution adopting Shelby County Commission Building Code regulations.
I'll second.
Okay, and I don't think that we need a roll call vote on this one, so we'll, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, so the resolution is passed. Let's see what's next here. Is there any other city business that someone would like to bring up? Okay, we'll move on. Mayor's report. So I went to the Shelby County Mayor's Association meeting last week in Chelsea. Last meeting for Mayor Picklesheimer, who's not going to run for re-election. At the meeting, Mayor Picklesheimer has always been a big advocate of a program called Innovate Alabama. Amy Sturdivant from 58 Inc. was there and talked about Innovate Alabama. And I mean, there's some opportunities that Tony has suggested is where we might be able to get grant funding for things even like recreation facilities and things of that nature. So I've invited Amy to come speak to us at our March the 4th council meeting and tell us about Innovate Alabama. And so she's going to be here. The only other thing that came up there is Scott Brakefield from Alabaster brought up about the proposed changes for, that the legislature is considering changes for the methodology as to how the state distributes the supplemental sales tax monies. And the larger cities are pushing that. They have lots of big bucks retailers. They feel like it's taking sales tax money away from them. But then I spoke up in the opposition and said that, you know, there are 465 incorporated municipalities in the state of Alabama. 90% of them have populations of 10,000 people or fewer. And they're not sitting on major transportation corridors like I-65 and I-20 and US 280. And so their residents don't have access to those retailers and oftentimes need to use the internet to order products, or they're going to the larger cities that are nearby and shopping there. So I had already spoken to our state representative, Corley Ellis, and said when the legislature convenes and you're there, I wanted him to know that I opposed any changes to how they distribute the supplemental sales tax revenue. And Corley indicated at that time that he supported that as well. But that was the only other issue that we had some discussion at the Mayor's Association meeting. It was a good meeting, always is. Tomorrow's the State of the Communities Luncheon. All the mayors in Shelby County will be at this luncheon in the Pelham Civic Complex. And so we have 8 minutes to tell how everything's going in our communities. I got a invitation, a letter from Courtney, or an email from Courtney Madison today about being invited to the Shelby County Showcase of Schools. And Courtney was obviously talking about that Elvin Hill is going to be highlighting their self-contained special education unit. This is a link where you can go to Eventbrite and make a reservation if you want to attend that on the 21st. I think it starts with a breakfast at 7:30. Then they have some programs, I think from 8 to like 9:30, and then you're going to get around, go around and see the presentations by the students and whatnot. So it could be a good deal here. I don't know if you were aware of this deal, Ashley, or not, about the self-contained special education unit.
I know what it is, but they leave me in PE.
Is it March 21st or February?
So it's February the 21st, and it's Shelby County Instructional Services is where it's at. It's at 601 First Street South in Alabaster. So it's right down Highway 31. So I look forward to going to that. We are onboarding a new, safer recruiting and retention coordinator. You know, we talked about losing our previous coordinator. Johnny reached out to Shane Phillips, who was one of the finalists that we had before. He is the fire chief at Childersburg, and Shane is coming by here tomorrow afternoon, and we're going to try to get the ball rolling with the new coordinator. Our fiscal year 23 audit is wrapping up. I left that on there from the last time. I've spoken, Charlene and I both did. We spoke to the auditor. I mentioned when the judge was here, we had spoken to the auditor, but we talked about other things as well. And said, we really need to get that audit and see it, and we'd like for you to come and present it to the city council on March 4th. So he has committed or said that he would try to get us the final audit report on Friday. I was kind of hoping he'd be able to come to this meeting, but he wasn't able to. And that'll give us the opportunity to look it over before the next council meeting, in which the audit will be presented to the council. And the last thing that I think would be of interest to people is that we've got some potential new businesses coming to Columbiana. The first one is both of these businesses are not yet ready to publicly announce they're coming here. I have reached out, I've had meetings with both of their engineering and planning firms. I've had meetings with the principal officers of at least one of them. The first one up here, the agricultural retailer, basically said, well, we can't really make an announcement until we kind of get more of our plans finalized. Things like approvals from ALDOT and various other agencies. But it's a 22,000 square foot facility. It'll be accessed off of Highway 70, and behind it, as you can see, the yellow area is an outdoor space. It looks similar in size to the 22,000 square foot indoor shopping space. They are hoping to be able to break ground this summer. And I had a conversation with their engineering, design, and development firm today over some of the approvals. And so we're kind of helping them out and got our city attorneys looking into some things for us as well. So that'll be a good deal. It's retailers mostly have part-time employees. This one's no different than most retail organizations. It'd be mostly part-time jobs, but it's they're looking at approximately 15 full-time equivalents. So it might be 30 people employed there, but full-time equivalency would be about 15 employees. So that's, I think, good news for Columbiana. And the other new business you can see is an organization that has acquired the old Greedy Foundry. And they want to tear that down very quickly. But actually, their optimistic goal is to complete their project in 18 months. I can't really tell at this point in time. I'm not allowed to tell what type of business it'll be. The picture on the right is a notional picture, but again, different. The firm that we talked to for the agricultural retailer, the primary engineer was out of Nashville, and they have a local Alabama person who's down in, it's not Andalusia, but it's down south. She's down south. I'm trying to remember where. But anyway, the firm that's doing the planning for this industrial firm on Industrial Parkway is out of the Houston, Texas area. And so they showed us some other samples of similar type buildings and said, it will look something like this. And it'll basically be a cinder block building, but it'll have a sort of a upscale facade to it. And I think that'll be a great improvement to our industrial park. When this thing's at full capacity, they claim up to 100 employees. So I think between the two, 100 employees is probably 100 jobs is probably a fair estimate. Okay. announcements, you wanna do this for us? Okay, guess not. Everybody knows Cowboy Day's coming up, it's gonna be cold, unfortunately, but, hopefully the weather will be nice. Last time I looked, it was supposed to be cloudy, on Saturday. March first, you have, Shelby County Arts Center Mardi Gras fundraiser. Been to those in the past, usually a lot of fun. April 5th, had the Beautification Board's Easter Bunny Tea. That's a fundraiser as well. And then on Saturday, April 12th, is the Touch a Truck, which I think the kids always enjoy coming around and looking at and playing on that heavy equipment. Questions about that? Okay. Anyone got any questions or comments?
Yes, I do.
Uh-huh.
I live on Center Street,
Right,
right there at Johnson.
right.
And y'all were, we had our road redone, finished last year.
Mhm.
But when they did that, they made it so we have water problems on our street, especially when it comes to Johnson. In terms of the homes on Center Street that are on the north side of the road, for their driveway entrances, the curbs don't lower there at all. So they just paved up in front of all the driveways to get to their driveways. But they didn't put any kind of pipe or culvert in that gutter for the water to run through to the storm drain that is there across the road, across from Johnson Street on Center, that's on the north side of the road. So all that water hits those raised driveway entrances in the road that block the gutter, and it pushes all the water across the street to my house. I live at the corner of Center and Johnson.
So we've had problems there, obviously, for the water running across that road for a while, even before we paved it. They did cut a little notch in that little driveway thing, and it's not very big, I know. But
It's created on that.
well, let me have the engineer look at it. They did replace a storm drain that runs under the street and goes down Johnson Street into the drainage ditch right there, and they did repair and clean out the stormwater drop. But if the water can't come down there and get into it, then I can see that where it might be a problem. So let me reach out to the engineer and see what we can do. We may end up having to do something where that little driveway ramp is there for the driveway across the street from you. Maybe we can put a grate or something over it so the water would still be, we can open it up and they'd still be able to get across it and it not block the water. So
Right, so that,
I don't know. I'm not a civil engineer, so I'm speaking out of tune there.
okay, I do have some pictures here.
Okay, I'd be glad to see those.
The gutter or the drainage ditch in front of our house is Johnson Center on the opposite side of where they did the storm drain. All right, that's what my drainage ditch will look like.
Now this is
This is,
Yeah, because all the water comes
this
down
is Johnson Street,
Right.
and this is Center that runs this way.
this is Johnson,
Yes, no,
Okay.
this one is, yes,
right here,
yes,
and center is here.
yes.
Okay.
So the
But then-
water runs down Goodwin and then comes down Center, and because especially now, since those dams are in the way of the one drainage, area, it pushes everything towards.
So this is Johnson, huh? Because I know we did some work there as well.
Yes. So this is Center. This is the water just flowing across the road. Hits it in 3 different driveways coming down Center, comes across the road, floods my front yard
All right. severely.
And then the other problem is on Johnson, my neighbor just to the south of me, Dee Dee. This is her culvert pipe that had all the water line pipes dropped on it and crushed the culverts that now have blockage in them. There's another picture here I got in there because we had major flooding this last storm we had the other night.
Okay.
And I got in through that hole that's now their culvert and pulled out as much debris as I could to try to get it flowing because it was so backed up. There's another picture, or another one in there where it enters the culvert where it's just overflowing. So, the whole drainage is insufficient for what the needs are right now.
Okay, I'll take a look at it.
What is your name?
Chandler Manwaring,
M-A-N.
WARING.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. We spent a lot of money on paving that street, so I want to make sure we get it right. We had a lot of issues there. That's our street of gold, as far as cost is concerned. Okay, appreciate that. Anything else? Okay. If there are no other questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Can I keep those pictures?
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, Miss Lily.